Hey everyone, I just ate Popeyes and I am full of grease, and it's apparently nuclear winter outside looking at my camera, but hey, we're here to talk about Yata-Garasu. That's the topic of this video. Yata-Garasu is a very, I'll say influential Yu-Gi-Oh card. It came out in mid 2003 in North America in Legacy of Darkness. That was a really interesting set. Maybe I'll do a whole video on Legacy of Darkness. The Yata-Garasu changed a lot, and you wouldn't think so just looking at its art. It's a bird. It's a purple raven on a like an orb. It's a 2-star wind fiend. Yeah, it's not a winged beast. It certainly looks like a winged beast, but yeah, it's a spirit monster, which are based off of mythological beings, spirits, that kind of stuff. You have Asura priests. That's probably one that sticks out to a lot of people. This is just a bird with 200 attack and 100 defense. It's not a very formidable monster, but of course, the trick is its special effect. Now, this effect reads, this card cannot be special summoned. This card returns to its owner's hand during the end phase of the turn it was normal summoned or flipped face up. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, they skip their next draw phase. That's the important part. Really, both parts work into this, but the question must be asked, is Yata-Garasu overpowered? And when you get through this video, definitely let me know if you think it is. What makes Yata-Garasu so scary is that it makes your opponent skip their next draw phase. Okay, in the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh, it's the turn that the player has is broken down by phases. Draw phase, standby, main phase, battle phase, main phase to end phase. But this card takes away one of those core foundations of Yu-Gi-Oh away. Now, we have had cards are similar to this back in Pharaoh's Servant in late 2002. We did get Time Seal, which makes your opponent skip their next draw phase. Okay, that's similar to Yata-Garasu. So what makes Yata-Garasu different than Time Seal? What makes Yata-Garasu more scary than this trap card that has existed in the format before? Yata-Garasu doesn't go to the grave after it's used. It's not a trap that you have to set. You can summon it, and if you inflict that battle damage to your opponent, it's gonna get its effect off. And you can use this turn after turn, which this created the very formidable Yata Lock deck. With the Yata Lock deck is that you get your opponent to the part of the duel where they don't have any cards in their hands, they don't have any good resources on the field, and if you inflict that damage to them and you can continuously do that, your opponent's not going to be able to draw into any resources, essentially meaning they cannot play the game. This is the first time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Really this was such a very powerful mechanic. Yeah, there's like Exodia and stuff, and especially in the TCG, this is really the first time you see something like this. OCG, you had other kind of gimmicky stuff. You had much more dangerous Exodia decks. But TCG Yu-Gi-Oh, which is the basis of this topic, this was the first time there was something quite like that. And that's very scary. And on top of that, it's a spirit monster, so it'll go back to your hand at the end of the turn. Which means your opponent can't Raigeki it, they can't Dark Hold the field. Hell, they can't even Trap Hold this because it is under 1,000 attack. It really limits their potential for comebacks for this, and if they don't have that resource to take care of it in those critical moments, it might be too late. And those two is what makes Yata-Garasu really scary, those two parts of its effect. And this wasn't even the final form for Yata-Garasu. When Invasion Chaos was released the following year, in 2004, we got the Chaos monsters. We got Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End. And this card basically nukes everything. And if you nuke everything while also having, let's say, a Witch of the Black Forest or a Sangan on the field, they're going to get you that one card, that one search out. And guess who has the stats to be searched out by both of these very powerful searcher cards? Yata-Garasu. So you do Chaos Emperor's effect during your main phase, and then you summon Yata-Garasu in your main phase 1, and attack in battle phase, and that's it. It sped up the Yata lock in this crazy Chaos Yata format. It's absolutely terrifying. Like, this is a card, it's arguable if it can come back or not. I think the downside to it is that it doesn't do anything else other than skip their next draw phase. And in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, there's so many cards that get so many things out, so many things with lingering effects, with protection effects, and just so much. Spirit monsters, the spirit archetype isn't very powerful in Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, there's some good cards in that specific archetype, but Yata-Garasu doesn't really help that much. It doesn't search anything. Like, it has its one specific use, and I think people could probably find a way to abuse it, but given how duels end in like 1 to 3 turns a lot of the times anyway, is it really that much of a difference if they put Yata-Garasu to 1 copy? I'm not quite sure. I don't know how traditional formats incorporate Yata-Garasu. I would think it'd be interesting to like see it come back to 1 just to see what happens, and if it's degenerate, then just ban it till the rest of time. But I think Yata-Garasu would be safe coming back to 1, at least just like a testing thing, because I don't think it's a case where you need to errata its effect. Like, what could you possibly do to change it? Like, maybe make it a direct attack, but I don't know. Or maybe you can only use this card's second effect once per duel. Maybe something like that, but I think that's a bit much for such a simple effect. Like, it's not Sinister Serpent, you know, it's not this continuous resource of a card. The card is what you're aiming towards. Serpent, you're using that for other cards. Yata-Garasu, not so much. I think Yata-Garasu is definitely like a really scary card. There is a thing called power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think Yata-Garasu kind of meets that, but that's not to say to underestimate it, because for all I know, there could be some crazy Mulan Glacia, Mermail, Yata-Garasu deck, or I don't know, something just absolutely absurd. But yeah, that's Yata-Garasu for you. It's an absurd card.